Hello and welcome to another edition of Focus on Morris County. I'm Joe Garifo. Focus on Morris County is a program that is designed to keep us up to date on the actions that are being taken by the Morris County Board of Freeholders. The show is also intended to make us all more aware of the many facets of Morris County government. Now, on this segment of the program, we are going to be discussing some county government issues with my guest. She is Morris County Freeholder Ann Grossi. Freeholder Grossi is a Republican from Parsippany. She is in the midst of her second term on the Freeholder Board, and we're going to not only discuss some county government issues, but maybe take a look back over year number one for Freeholder Grossi. And welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
I mentioned that you're in the midst of your second year on the board. As you look back over your first year as a freeholder, how would you characterize that year?
You know, most people get elected and they go about taking care of government the way we traditionally think government is supposed to be run. But I would say that my first year was actually a very tumultuous year because of the weather storms that we had. It was an unusual year, and it really put a lot of pressure on government to step up to the plate and the people who work for government. We had the earthquake, the hurricane, which we had unprecedented flooding. We also dealt with the storm, the October snowstorm, where people were without electricity for days and days and days. And one of the things that was driven home to me is that government provides services. We all know that. But when government really steps up to the plate is when you have to go beyond just the normal services, like making sure the streets and the bridges are closed, but you have to deal with going into people's homes and making sure that they're safe and making sure, working to get their electricity turned on, and dealing with the issues of having people call up during those times and saying, you know, my dad's on an oxygen machine, we don't have electricity, we need help. And truthfully, everyone thinks that they're independent. I mean, we all like to think that we're independent, but when major things happen, residents look to government to fix it for them. And I think that the county did an outstanding job with putting it all together.
Now, before you became a freeholder, you had served on the township council in Parsippany. Mm-hmm. That municipal government experience, has that helped you in any way at the county level, and if so, how?
I think it's invaluable to work for any municipality. The knowledge that you get of how government works and the restraints that are placed on you is, you can't put a price on that when you come up to work for the county. It gave me a great background, especially since I come from Parsippany, and Parsippany is the largest town in Morris County with 52,000 residents. It is really a small, it's a small urban center. It's a small city, and it has a lot of the same issues that the county has to deal with. I mean, we've got a tremendous park system. We provide our own water. We have our own utility system. We have our own water treatment plant, and dealing with the budget and learning about what you can do, what you can't do when you're putting a budget together. I think all of those things were, gave me a great foundation, and I think that it's a good stepping stone.
Now, you mentioned budget, and Freeholder Grossi chairs the Freeholder Budget Subcommittee this year. Can you just briefly explain what the role of that subcommittee is in putting the county budget together?
The Budget Subcommittee takes its direction from the entire board. So whatever the entire board decides should be the focus of the budget, then that's what the Budget Subcommittee strives to do, and it's a committee that meets all year long. In the beginning of the year, we meet at least 2 times a month, and usually that's before our regular freeholder workshop meetings. Mm-hmm. But as we go towards the end of the year, where the budget starts to really get formulated, we'll meet more than that per month. So.
Now, this year, the freeholders adopted a $317 million county budget. What are some of the things that you think Morris County residents should know about this year's budget?
This year's budget was adopted with not any cuts in services. I think that that is the most relevant aspect of the budget. And with only a 0.5% increase in the tax effort, which amounts to approximately a $3 increase per household in Morris County, and we were able to maintain all of our services. And people don't really understand what the county does. It's kind of, we're here, but they don't realize how it operates for them every day. The county takes care of all of the bridges, all of the county roads. It takes care of all the parks. It's responsible for the prosecutor's office, for the county court system, for the Morris County Clerk's office, for the surrogate's office, the sheriff's office, the prison, and some smaller things too. For instance, when Governor Corzine decided that the state was no longer going to be responsible for picking up deer carcasses on the roadways. And I remember that clearly when you would come out of your driveway or down your street and deers that were hit by a car would just sit on the roadway for weeks. The county has picked up that. So those are kind of the little things that people don't realize the county does, but it you know, that touches them on a daily basis, and we have kept those things with us.
Now, Morris County has gone to great pains over the years to maintain its AAA bond rating. It's something that the county first received in 1975, and it's maintained it ever since. Why is this important to Morris County taxpayers, maintaining that AAA bond?
Well, it's important to Morris County taxpayers in a number of ways. One, a AAA bond rating is similar to your credit rating. So, and we all know that if you have a good credit rating, you get a better interest rate. That's the same with the county government. So the AAA bond rating is the highest bond rating you can get, so the county gets a very low interest rate when it has to bond. The second reason why it's important is that since the establishment of the Improvement Authority, we have been able to offer municipalities in Morris County the advantage of bonding and taking advantage of that AAA bond rating. So they're getting they're getting their funding through a source that is much cheaper than if they had to do it through their own municipality.
Yeah, and I assume that maintaining that AAA bond rating is going to be one of the major points of concern for the Budget Committee this year, to do everything it can to maintain that bond rating.
Well, I think that's a primary goal.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be. I mean, you can be dollar wise and you know, penny wise and dollar foolish, but you have to. That is one of the most significant things that the Budget Committee will be concerned with, because last year we had an issue when the federal government was downgraded. We got a AAA bond rating with a negative outlook, and that was very concerning to us. It had nothing to do with how well we run the government, but what we did was the Budget Subcommittee got together and we went to Manhattan and we went to Moody's and we went to Standards & Poor's, and after we met with them and explained everything, how the government operates, how our county operates, we were able to get that lifted. So I think that's a testament to how well run the county is.
One of the innovative programs that the freeholders and county staff came up with this year is a flood mitigation program. Now, I realize in just a couple of minutes there's no way we can go through all of the details of that program, but can you just give us maybe a brief overview of what the program's goals are and briefly how it's going to work?
The program's goals are to purchase land that has homes on it and take them out of the floodplain, and thereby creating areas in towns that get flooded where we won't have to expend the kind of resources that we do every time there is a flood, both from the municipal side and from the county side, and help prevent our loss of life, and to open those areas up to the natural habitat that they should be.
So these the properties that will be purchased using some of the money from the Open Space Trust Fund?
There's been a portion of the Open Space Trust Fund set aside specifically for flood mitigation. And how this is going to operate is that the towns are going to have to supply us with their recommendations, and then the county will look at those recommendations. It's really going to operate similar to the Open Space Trust Fund, how that's operated right now. The county doesn't go out and look for those areas. The towns are going to be responsible for bringing them into the county and for consideration, and there's going to be two components to that, because it will be an ongoing program. One is the county will pay 75% of homes that are not covered under FEMA, the purchase of that property, and the towns or the homeowner will have to pay the other 25%. And those that are covered under FEMA, which are substantially flooded homes on a repetitive basis, which means more than 51% of the value of the home is flooded on a repetitive basis. Those qualify for FEMA funding. FEMA funding would provide 75% of the funds to purchase those homes, and the county then would provide the other 25%.
Well, it sounds like it's been quite the first year, and I'm sure the second year is going to be just as hectic. Freeholder Grossi, I want to thank you very much for being with us today. Believe me, we've only just scratched the surface of some of the issues that the Freeholder Board has been and continues to look at here in Morris County. So if you have a question about county government, maybe about an issue that we did not have a chance to discuss during this segment of the program, you can call the Morris County Freeholder's Office at 973-285-6010, and you may also visit the county government website at morriscountynj.gov. Once you're there, sign up for the county's electronic newsletter, Morris County Connections, and also take advantage of the many social media that Morris County government embraces. I'm Joe Garifo. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm John Pecoraro, surrogate of Morris County. If a loved one passes away and you need to transfer property to their heirs, you must come to the surrogate's court. This is true even if the deceased did not have a will. This process is known as probate. Now, probate in New Jersey is not overly complicated, and my staff is available to assist you. If you have any questions, please call my office at 973-285-6500 or visit our website at morrissurrogate.com.
Welcome back to Focus on Morris County. I'm Joe Garifo, and on this segment of the program, we are going to learn about an innovative program designed to assist homeowners who have experienced repeated damage from flooding here in the county. And here to tell us about this program are my guests. First, to my left is Morris County Freeholder Ann Grossi. Freeholder Grossi is liaison to the Morris County Department of Planning and Development, which is administering this program that we're going to tell you about. And seated next to Freeholder Grossi is Jennifer McCulloch. Jennifer is the coordinator of this new program. It is a flood mitigation program. Ladies, thank you for joining me. Welcome to the show. Freeholder Grossi, I want to start with you. The Freeholders a few months ago adopted this flood mitigation program, basically, I guess, to help flood-prone residents. Give us a little background or history behind the program and how it came about.
Well, it really came about after we had the major flooding. I mean, the full program came about when we had major flooding this year after Hurricane Irene. And the devastation was unbelievable in many of our towns. And we knew that at that point that we really had to ratchet up what we're doing and step up to the plate and help our municipalities in a way that they've never seen us really come through for them. We have used open space funding for mitigation in some of our towns, like Pequannock, I think for the past 5 years. Is that
correct?
Past 5 years, they have been purchasing property along the river, and I think their intent is at someday to actually construct a river walk along that property for the and to restore it back to its natural habitat.
So basically the program is to purchase flood-prone properties and return those properties to their natural state, to open space. That one of the goals of the program?
That's the main goal of the program, but also to help help our municipalities in terms of and keeping people safe. not only the people who live in those areas, but also our first responders who are put at risk. And also, it helps, you know, there's a tremendous cost that comes with these kinds of events, and both from the municipal side and the county side. And most people don't realize that. You know, just the cleanup alone for towns that have to pay for the, you know, it's a big process. You have to get in there, you have to get people out, you have to make sure they're safe, then you have to wait for the flood waters to recede. You know, oil tanks, if people have oil tanks and they're floating down the river or floating all over the place, and just the damage and destruction to the homes that have to be completely redone. It's an enormous, enormous task.
So how is this flood mitigation program structured? Jennifer?
The program basically has two funding tracks. The first one is called the match program, and it does exactly what you would expect. It provides match funding for properties that are already working with FEMA or NJDEP Blue Acres. In those situations, Morris County is a subordinate funder, if you will. The other funding stream is the core program, and that's where Morris County is stepping in to help homeowners who've fallen through the FEMA and Blue Acres net. And in those situations, Morris County will be the majority funder,
Now,
probably up to about 75%.
Now, Morris County's funding, I understand, is going to be coming from the open space program. The
Correct.
flood mitigation program is a component
Correct.
of that. How is that going to work?
Basically, the Preservation Trust is a dynamic group, if you will, and it has evolved in its 20-year history to meet the community needs within Morris County. So about 10 years ago, for example, the Preservation Trust started doing historic preservation, and that was a new group that was formed. And with the incredible flooding that we've seen in Morris County, the freeholders recognized that it was time to create another new program, and that's the Flood Mitigation Program. And as Freeholder Grossi has said, you know, we've been doing flood mitigation work for about 5 years, but given the emergent situations that we're seeing, they felt it was time to really create a dedicated fund to that.
So now, what is the criteria that needs to be met for a property to be eligible for the flood mitigation program?
The basic criteria is either the home needs to have a history of repetitive loss, meaning it floods over and over again, or it needs to have substantial damage, which is defined as over 50% of the home has been damaged in a single flood event. The other criteria is what's called, it's a little complicated, it's called the benefit cost analysis. And it basically means that it makes financial sense because the cost to acquire the home is actually less than if the home were to remain standing and continue flooding and require emergency measures and, you know, flood insurance and everything else.
Yeah. Now, is every town eligible in Morris County to participate in the program, or just the towns that we know constantly flood?
Would you like to, I mean, every town is eligible, but the property would have to qualify. And one of the things that, you know, frankly, we're excited about with this program is it's an opportunity for the more urban communities in Morris County to benefit from the Open Space Trust Fund in a way that they might not have before.
Yeah. Talk about the application process and the approval process, Jennifer.
Okay. We only accept applications from municipalities. It has to be for residences. They need to be working with willing landowners. We only work with willing sellers. The municipality will meet with Morris County staff. Staff will review the application to make sure that it's eligible. It will be presented to the Flood Mitigation Committee. If they believe it's a project, you know, worth moving forward with, they'll make a recommendation to the freeholders. The actual approval process is two-step because of the complexity of these transactions. So once the committee and the freeholders say, yes, we're going to give preliminary approval, you know, let's go ahead and look at the funding of this, then the town has the opportunity to do due diligence, which is appraisals and survey work, and negotiate with the landowner. Once the town has amassed a final cost estimate for the property, then they come back to the county and they say this is the exact dollar amount that we need for this specific property, and then it goes through a similar process for final approval. It goes to the committee and then to the freeholders.
Jennifer, what will specifically the program pay for and what won't the program pay for?
Well, the program will pay for the current pre-flood value of the home, the structure and the land itself. We will pay soft costs that have not been reimbursed by another governmental agency, but we will not pay for demolition. That is not an allowed use of open space trust funds. The municipality will have to cover that cost.
Yeah. Freeholder Grossi, the freeholders' support of this program, how would you characterize that?
It's unanimous. All freeholders are supporting this program. And we saw that there was a need to be met, and that's what county government does. It provides services and tries to meet the needs of the county municipalities.
Yeah. Jennifer, is there a time frame that you work with in terms of, or a deadline for an application to be submitted, or is this an ongoing?
No, this is a continuous, what's called a rolling application, which is a big difference between our traditional open space program and this program. In traditional open space, there are funding rounds that are annual. In this situation, the freeholders have, designated a certain amount of money, and we have access to that money on a continuous basis.
Now, I understand that some projects have already at least received preliminary approval, which is kind of amazing because the program itself is only a couple of months old. How were these projects able to be approved so quickly?
Basically, within the match program, we have something called Fast Track. And Fast Track is set up in the instances of nationally declared disasters. And it allows us to be extremely responsive to projects that have already been through the whole FEMA process. And FEMA has been very generous in sharing all of their application information and analysis of these projects. And Morris County viewed it and said, if you've made it through the FEMA process, which is about 6 months, and they're sharing that information with us, you've already been pre-vetted. So that's how we were able to do that.
Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the program that this is an innovative program. Let me ask you, have you received feelers or inquiries from other counties or other governmental agencies about this flood mitigation program and how it came about and how it works? Are other counties interested, Ann?
Well, I think that once again, Morris County is a model for this kind of a program. There aren't any other counties that have actually been able to implement it, and I have to give a lot of credit to Jennifer because the freeholders gave her the task of putting the program together, and she created this. This is her creation, and we're very happy that she was able to do it. She, has extensive knowledge in this area, and yes, the governor is was very pleased. Governor Christie was very pleased that Morris County took the lead in this, and there are other counties looking into how we were able to put this together and to put it together so quickly.
Yes, and it's very interesting. Governor Christie issued a challenge basically to FEMA and said New Jersey is unique in that we have an open space tax and we potentially have access to matching funds, and Morris County stepped up to the plate in creating this program. FEMA and New Jersey DEP Blue Acres is very excited as well. They're hoping that other counties will follow suit both in New Jersey and perhaps even nationwide.
Jennifer, any idea how many properties in the county may eventually qualify for the flood mitigation program?
Well, that's a tricky question in a sense. Back in 2010, Morris County developed a hazard mitigation plan, which is a requirement to have access to FEMA funding. And at that point, they identified over 400 properties that could potentially benefit from this program. But Morris County really believes that the municipalities are the determinant of this. So a municipality can apply, and that's the best way for us to tell what properties actually qualify. And we'll be working with the municipalities in the development of a long-term flood acquisition plan with mapping and other resources so they can really assess what they think the best properties are.
I think that's a very important component of the plan, that the municipalities that want to participate are going to have to come up with a plan of their own and a flood mitigation plan. This way, it's not going to be done when there happens to be a flood, and then we find out that there are the 50 homes that have been flooded that need this kind of a resource. So I think that's part, and it's also the municipalities have to have some interest in it, and they have to have some skin in the game, basically, to become a part of this. So it's not being thrown down by the county.
And well, first of all, ladies, thank you very much for being with us today. And I'm going to give you some a phone number and a web address if you want more information about the Flood Mitigation Program. You can call the Morris County Department of Planning and Development at 973-829-8120. Visit the department's website at morrisplanning.org, and you will find out more about the Morris County Flood Mitigation Program. Now, if you have a question about county government, you can call the Freeholder's office at 973-285-6010, and you can visit the county government's website at morriscountynj.gov. I'm Joe Garifo. I want to thank you very much for being with us and invite you to tune in again next week for another edition of Focus on Morris County.